Man, is it me or what? Can the outsider catch a break? It seems like in the last three weeks we've had the Super Bowl, we've had the Oscars, tonight's is the NBA All-Star Game. Man, but anyway, we are here to talk about episode 7 of The Outsider. Very excited to be here tonight. And man, we got an interesting episode to talk about tonight, guys. I mean, we have Jack and Holly take a road trip. It looks like Ralph may be getting on board with the unexplainable and everything that's going on so far with El Cuco. And looks like Glory is going to be suing everybody. So we're going to talk about that and much more. Episode 7 of The Outsider was titled In the Pines, In the Pines. Holly tries to help a volatile but conflicted Jack while their whereabouts are being tracked by Ralph and Alec. After she's confronted by gossip, Glory considers Howie's suggestion on how to secure her family's financial future. What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to my weekly recap, breakdown, review of the latest episode of HBO The Outsider. We're talking episode 7, In the Pines, and we're breaking it all down in this spoiler discussion. Before we dive into it, for those that are new to Movie Files, definitely consider subscribing to my channel and hit that bell while you're at it so you can stay up to date with my latest content. And if this is your first time tuning into one of my recap, breakdown, and reviews of a TV episode, well, definitely consider subscribing again, because I do TV breakdowns, I review movies, I react to trailers, I do unboxings for new releases, I also do giveaways for the news releases. So again, definitely consider subscribing and hit that bell. So as you all know, we've been doing this for 7 weeks now. If you've seen this latest episode of The Outsider, I want to know what you thought about it. I want to know your theories. I want to know your pros, your cons, everything in between. Let me know your comments below. And if you guys have been following me every breakdown, every review thus far, you know I respond to those comments, and I cannot appreciate you all enough and thank you all enough for the awesome conversations we have in the comment section about this show. I'm on Facebook groups. I'm followed on Twitter. I am so involved in the show, and I love it. So I love doing these reviews every week. And like I said, definitely let me know your thoughts of this latest episode in the comment section. So yeah, this episode was a bit of a step back compared to the last few episodes, but we still got some juicy stuff. You know, I definitely liked the previous episode a little bit more, but I'm excited to see where things head in the next few episodes, because we only got we got episode 8, 9, and 10. We got 3 weeks left of this show that I've been loving thus far. So, I mean, the biggest thing that we found out last week was, you know, El Cuco is definitely threatened by Holly. You know, obviously he wants Ralph off the case, and he's doing what he can, which I always still kind of feel like El Cuco can be doing more to get Ralph off of this case. Like, he could just, I don't understand why El Cuco doesn't just kill Ralph, doesn't just kill Jenny. I'm not confused by his powers and what he or the demon or the entity decides to do and what not to do. But anyway, you know, outside of Ralph, I think Holly is clearly the biggest threat. He tried to kill her on the bus. He tried to get, you know, Jack to get information from her, this, that, and the other thing. But we see from last week's episode that Jack now has her in his possession. And that's what this episode really focused on. So let's just break it down. So, you know, the episode was really intriguing. Again, we didn't get as much stuff that I wanted this episode. But one of the things that I would love to know your thoughts, and we're going to break it down here, but this has been weighing on my mind this last week, is just let's talk about some of the facts that we got from this show so far. And again, let me know your thoughts in the comments and your theories and what you think will happen next. But so far, we know that El Cuco, when he scratches his victims, those victims become the doppelgangers. They become the evil version of themselves in a way. So we know that with Terry, and we know that with the Heath character. We know that they were scratched for some matter, and they became El Cuco, or El Cuco became them. So we know that. And then it seems like the people that have the bubbles, the scratches on their neck, they become pawns. They become slaves to El Cuco. We know that from the Tracy character. We know that from obviously Jack. So my question for you all is, do we now have, because one of the questions we had a couple weeks ago was, are there 2 Jacks, which we know that isn't the case. But now, after tonight's episode, are there 2 Clydes? Has Clyde been now cloned or doppelganged into El Cuco? As we kind of see, he leaves the club, he kind of goes off, and we'll see what what next week has to hold for Clyde. But has he been cloned? I want to know what you guys are thinking. And also, I want to know, and this might not matter, but who, if we know that Terry was cloned, who was the accomplice? Who was the person that was scratched on the neck and was doing all the helpings for El Cuco? Let me know your theories in the comments below. I've been thinking about this whole week, and I want to know what you all are thinking. But anyway, This episode was like I said, wasn't the best, but I still was intrigued and liked what we got in this episode. Starting off with, we again, Holly is the biggest threat to El Cuco. So we see Jack and Holly. And for me, being a movie fan and TV fan, I love when we get, two interesting characters in a confined space. And in this case, we get Holly and Jack in the car together. And boy, do we get a very interesting conversation. I kind of looking at my notes here. So we have, first and foremost, Jack questions why him. Why is El Cuco using him as the pawn? Why did he choose him? And that's where, we see Holly kind of tells him, well, he is attracted to pain. He likes to get into people's mindset when they're in a dark space. So that kind of makes me thinking like, okay, why Jack? Why did he choose Jack? Is he the only cop in the department of, I can't think of what town they're in, but is he the only one that's going through pain? Obviously, we know that Jack has a history with, as we saw last week, with his mom tormenting him and beating him, and coming in the form of his mom. And he's had recently a divorce. I wonder, will we ever see his wife? Will she make an appearance on the show? But we see that he has that going on. But I'm still intrigued of why and who El Cuco decides to choose to be his pawn. So we get that conversation there, which again I thought was probably the most interesting, thing for the episode for me, was that conversation they had in the car. Holly asks, what El Cuco told him to do so far, and Jack kind of makes a little funny remark that, doing some shopping, some catering, things like that. I thought that was kind of funny, but we get that moment there, and it's at that point that Jack was really was hoping that Holly can kind of fill him in on why him. What is it that El Cuco wants from him? So again, I thought that conversation was just so great. And in that moment, again, I just love Holly's character. And Cynthia Erivo has been she's such a phenomenal actress. And she's only been on the scene for a couple years now, from Once Upon a Time or Bad Times at the El Royale, and Harriet from last year, and also Widows. But she has such a great presence to her. And I just love her performance, but I love how smart she is in the show and how Holly is. I know a lot of you all that have read the books, and also I know she was on another show on Showtime. That's slipping my mind, but I know a lot of you all say, yeah, Holly's a phenomenal character, and I see what you mean by that. I think she's so intelligent. So we see her little smart trick move to the car where she says she has to go to the bathroom, which again, I'm just thinking to myself, El Cuco, I'm trying to just place in mind, like, how does he control Jack, and how often is he in Jack's mind? Like, is he always watching him? Because at that point, when Holly says, I'm going to pull over, we see Jack falls asleep. Like, is El Cuco doing something else? Is he not taking him over at that moment? Because if El Cuco was inside of Jack at that moment, there's no way that he would allow Holly to go to the bathroom to pull over. There will be no way that he would be letting them have this conversation. It would just be more of just a straightforward, we're going to this destination, I'm going to kill you. But it's just very fascinating. And again, the powers of El Cuco, and when he chooses not to control his victims, and when he chooses to kill someone or not kill someone. I think they mentioned in this episode that El Cuco doesn't necessarily want to kill anyone outside of children, which Holly brings up. So again, I thought it was just really interesting that El Cuco wouldn't be like, his attention wouldn't be focused on Holly throughout that conversation, that he allowed Holly to go to the bathroom, sneak out of the bathroom, really smart move there, get away from Jack. And I thought at that moment Jack was going to maybe take that SUV that drove by, but he didn't, and just let Holly kind of go about her way. And obviously we saw Holly go back and goes to Ralph's house, and we have another scene again where Ralph is not wanting to believe what Holly has to say about El Cuco, because throughout the episode we see Ralph and Alec, they find out that Holly's been taken by by Jack, and they think that he might have killed her. He obviously abducted her, and they're trying to put the pieces together. But it's still, at this moment, this whole episode, outside of that fascinating scene that we get in the car with Jack and Holly, but it's still kind of planting the seeds. We're 7 episodes in, and we know that Ralph does not want to believe things that can't be explained. There's been multiple times of that in this season, but particularly in this episode, we see Jenny snaps at him. His wife tells him, you need to get out of the way. If you're not going to help us, you're being a hazard to this case. You need to just help us and tell us the information. We saw Holly go in at him. I love that moment when Holly's just like, why didn't you tell me that you about Clyde getting scratched? I just love when Holly just kind of steps up for herself and talks to Ralph like that, because it's just blowing my mind that Ralph is still, we all know these type of people, right? That people that just can't, they want to know the facts. They don't want to care about how this happened, they want to know the factual things, can science prove it? And we know that that's how Ralph is as a character. So I'm starting to think that Ralph is starting to peel the onions back a little bit, pulling some layers back, and starting to believe what's going on. We see him sit in that chair that El Cuco sat in. And I think at that point, it was kind of Ralph being kind of cocky, kind of arrogant, sitting in that seat where obviously this entity was sitting in, and him kind of just seeking and sipping it all in. So again, man, I'm really hoping that Ralph, after tonight's episode, after the reveals that Holly tells him. And obviously Andy's now in the mix, I'm still so confused by this relationship between Andy and Holly. Like, does she really like him? I mean, obviously she does. She pokes a little joke at him when he comes to the door, like, why are you here? But I'm still fascinated by that. But I wonder, now with Andy in the mix and obviously Holly being abducted and Jack missing now, that Ralph is going to start to have the pieces of the puzzle laid out in front of him. He has that conversation with his therapist, and he tries to find someone to convince him that this stuff is not making sense. And even in that conversation, the therapist tells him, with all the stuff that goes on in the world, some things don't have to be explained. We see that with his Yakis, I think his name is. He even says that as well in this episode, that you're trying to make sense of all this, but sometimes things don't have to make sense. I just want this to end. So again, we're having our characters continuously bombard Ralph with the information, and he's still not listening. But I'm hoping that this episode we're going to get that turn, and by next week either he's going to come encounter with El Cuco, he's going to see something that's supernatural, and it's going to really kind of get him on board. So again, I thought this episode was really great. Again, as I had mentioned up top, we see Clyde leaves the strip club and now is going off on the road now. But like I said, is that Clyde? Is that the Clyde that we know? Because again, whenever someone's scratching this episode, we know that person becomes El Cuco, or I should say El Cuco becomes them. So was that actually Clyde that left? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. So, another thing that we got as far as in this episode, Glory, she wants to sue everybody. She goes back to work. The couple that she shows the house to is offended. I thought that was so kind of ridiculous that they wanted to press charges on her. Like, you guys were obviously trying to instigate her. But anyway, we see she goes back to work. Things don't work out. She kind of loses her job, but she calls Howie and says, I want to sue everybody. So I wonder what that's going to look like in the coming episodes, how that's going to affect everything with her now suing the police department and everyone that was involved and seeing if she, Howie asked her, do you want to sue individual people? And we obviously know that the person that really kind of put their family in this mix was Ralph. So we'll see how that plays out with next week. So again, guys, I thought this was a really great episode. I like that conversation that we get with Holly and Jack, the conversation that we get with Ralph and his therapist, and Jeannie really kind of telling Jack or Ralph, you need to get on board with this. And if you don't, you need to just step away, because you're causing this whole thing. You want to make sense of everything, but things are not making sense. We know this from the case of it as a whole, as we know with Terry being in two places at one time. So I like that we get that moment there. And like I said, I'm hoping that next week we really get some more concrete evidence of Ralph now getting on board with the situation and figuring out, are there two Clydes? What is, who's the next victim? Who's the next child that's going to be in harm's way? And what will happen to Jack now? Now that his mission was kind of blown, he let Holly get out of the way. What will El Cuco do to Jack now? And also, that was another question I had as far as, by no means do I condone, people harm themselves or suicide, but just in the show, I'm just talking about the show, but I wonder what is keeping Jack from killing himself. Obviously, El Cuco's in his mind. He knows now that this is an entity, this is a demon. What is Jack going to do now? Is he going to help them out? Is he going to take his own life? Things of that nature. Again, I'm not condoning suicide by any means or harming yourself, but I'm just really intrigued to see what Jack does now that, he blew his mission. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. What do you think will happen with Jack? Do you think he will die? Do you think he will kill himself? Or do you think he's going to actually help them out now? So let me know that in the comments below. Again, not my favorite episode, but again, a lot of good stuff in this episode. But again, guys, thank you all for watching this review. Recap, breakdown, discussion, whatever you want to call it. I love talking about the show in any medium, whether it's on social media, whether it's on YouTube or on Facebook groups. I love talking about the show. So again, let me know your thoughts on this latest episode. Give this video a thumbs up. I will be back, obviously, talking about episode 8. But between now and then, check out my other content on my channel. I do trailer reactions, unboxings. I will be doing an unboxing for Jojo Rabbit coming this Tuesday. I have a bunch of movie reviews that I did over the weekend, from Sonic, Fantasy Island, to All the Boys Before, and The Photograph. So definitely check out my movie reviews and everything that we do on this channel. Again, I can't thank you all enough for coming in week to week to week, watching my reviews, leaving some great comments, and I just have such a fun time talking with you all. So definitely leave your thoughts on the latest episode in the comments below and let me know what you're thinking to see, what you're hoping to see in next week's episode. So again, thank you all for watching. Have a great week, and we'll see you on the next video.